the end of Bound for Glory, they announced Impact will be no more. They're resorting back to TNA. I mean, apparently TNA, the Impact officials are loving how this went over, loving the reaction from the fans. How much of a impact is this rebranding going to be? And any chance this will change what the current product Impact is?
So first off, I mean, it's already having a significant impact. I think a lot of people are really excited about it, from the fans to the talent. You've seen a lot about this. I've seen a lot of action and play about this on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So yeah, if anything, like, it's kind of like, when a team, like a football team, they change jerseys or they change logos, right? Like, it's not, to an outsider, it may not be a big deal, right? Or it just makes you like, oh, that's a nice little tweak, whatever. But mentally, it's like, it's a refresh, for the coaches, for the players, and the same case with the wrestlers here. I think that's what it is. I think the fact that it's a rebrand, it's a reboot, and they're all hyped about it. So yeah, of course you're gonna have that there. Now, what will it actually do? I don't know. Like, as far as like the product itself, like the wrestlers have been solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone, especially, like, we always talk about it. Nonstop, we've talked about it, and since we've talked about it, the roster has changed, but it still holds true. The Knockouts division is the best women's roster in all of wrestling.
Period.
So what exactly is going to change here? I don't know. I think the biggest way for them to have an impact, a true impact, is for them to have a different cable provider, to have a larger audience. Like, I think the TNA is going to be a morale boost. I don't know how long that will last, but as far as bringing more eyes to the product or anything like that, like, it's not necessarily going to work until they get into a bigger platform. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. As somebody who's gotten into Impact as Impact, somebody who always, whenever I could get a chance, would watch TNA because I never knew when it was on. TNA did some great stuff, but mainstream media always shat on it. It wasn't doing that great, or it was mismanaged, etc. There's so many negatives toward the TNA brand. And so they decided to rebrand themselves as Impact, which was the name of their show. For those of you who do not know, Impact was their Raw. Impact was their Dynamite. Was TNA Impact. They decided to rebrand themselves with a double entendre of TNA. A little backstory for those of you who do not know for some reason. Okay, that makes sense. All right. You want to take yourself more seriously or as a contender? But then I got into Impact when it was Impact, knowing the history of TNA. Then, like, a couple of years ago, Moose brought back the TNA Championship.
Yes, I remember that.
They started to go back into the history of TNA and looking at the division of TNA and Impact. So, yeah, it just seems like it's going to be a different attitude. Different, like, we're, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's a different chip on their shoulder. It's a different confidence being the branded TNA, because I think they wanted to be TNA. Everyone on that roster was a TNA fan. Everyone publicly said that. Nobody grew up being an Impact fan. Again, I think it was its attitude, the way it just transcended the business. They never tried to be a competitor with WWE.
No,
like AEW
that would be
trying to
stupid
compete
for
with
them
WWE.
too.
They never even tried to, except for those, when they tried to go head to head with on Raw for a couple months, thanks to Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah, that was a Hulk Hogan Eric Bischoff move though.
And that was a huge bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they never tried to compete as a competitor. They were always branded themselves as an alternative, the alternate. And TNA was that, man. And I think going back to that is awesome. It just seems weird. Somebody said it's going backward, taking a step back because you're going back to what you were instead of evolving. And I see that point of view, but just TNA, like Scott D'Amore said in the ring, if you haven't seen that promo, everywhere they go, people still call it TNA. Other countries out of the world, when they do world tours, don't know the double entendre of tits and ass. So they don't know why they changed it in the first place.
That's the thing, though. What I wonder about with, like, because we live in the day of social media, right? So, with hashtags on Instagram, That's a big deal. If TNA is also sort of associated with tits and ass, like that could be a banned hashtag. You know what I mean? So I do
I
wonder how
see
that
what you're
will
saying, but
play.
all outside the United States, tits and ass is not a phrase, so they don't know what that means. And also, I've not even heard the term TNA. I have not even heard the word tits and ass for years. So I think that is kind of passe. Again, evolving times, that's not an appropriate thing to say. So when people think of TNA, they think of total nonstop action now. I think that's not double entendre is gone.